Good morning. I have a story to share. I will provide a link to this story. This is at Nightingale, which is the Journal of the Data Visualization Society. If you're not aware, Florence Nightingale, who you may know about the International Red Cross and her involvement in the Crimean War, really got involved in the establishment of modern nursing practices and how hygiene really helped with reducing the mortality and battlefield injuries. More men died from sepsis and the that came from the awful conditions in the battlefield hospitals more than direct injuries on the battlefield. But part of the way she convinced decision makers was the use of data visualization, though I have issues in the data viz she used. That said, it was a nascent art. It was an art, it was a craft. But she is quite the inspiration. In any case, she is very successful in what she did. Um, But one of the ways that you get successful at stuff is try things out and fail. And let me tell you, one of the ways to really remember a lesson is to fail. You do not forget your big screw ups. And one big screw up I had was fairly early in my actuarial career, and it was in the early 2000s, about 2004, 2005. And it is a time when I crashed the email boxes of a bunch of executives, and I'll just name it was at TIAA CREF. And I was working on a project for them. I was doing some modeling. It was Monte Carlo modeling of some mutual funds we were trying out. And the results, I was creating a variety of graphs based on metrics of, drawdown and percentage failures and yada, yada, yada. I was supposed to do 1 million runs, and there were all these data points behind these graphs. The graphs themselves were fairly simple, but all this data came up into histograms, and then it went into these graphs. And so I have these graphs, and they would go into these Word documents, and I'd copy and paste Control C, Control V from the graph in the Excel spreadsheet into a Word document, and then I'd email the Word document to the executives. Back in the day, we used to have quotas on how much we could have in our email. And if you hit quota, email would start bouncing and you couldn't receive email anymore. I do not recall how it got found out. And it said, I'll provide a link in the video. But my report was causing trouble, and I don't remember if it was my boss. It wasn't me directly, or it could have been one of the executives who was up early, and he told me that it was mine. And I believe I was the one who had to contact IT to tell them it was my email. Please go in there and delete what I had sent. Go into the email and just delete it. And I did figure out the file was too big for some reason, and I had to block it out into subfiles, do it like 2 graphs at a time for some reason. And don't ask me why I couldn't turn it into a PDF at the time. I was relatively new. I had been on the job for only 2 years or so. I didn't think, or maybe they asked me to send it to them as a Word document. I don't know that it was going to get incorporated into a longer document. In any case, I didn't figure out until years later what I had done wrong. And I'm going to demonstrate it to you. Here we go. Okay, here's my lovely graph. I'm going to Control C, copy. Here's my Word document, Control V, paste. Ta-da. Ew. I don't like that. Okay, I'm already got a screw up. Okay, not happy. So we can already see I have an issue. Things aren't matching up. Let's see if I can do layout and change this to landscape so it fits. landscape. Ugh, make it big enough. Is this going to fit for me? Much better. Still, okay, moving things around. Not happy with what I'm seeing. Okay. Looks great, right? Okay. Save my document. Now, let's go into let's say I want, and the colors are wrong and I'm not happy with this and stuff. Let's say I want to edit data in Excel. If I do that, it goes right back to my spreadsheet. That's already telling me it's probably linked to my spreadsheet. So if I save the Word document and then email the Word document to somebody else, and I've had this happen to me several times before, they probably do not have access to the linked spreadsheet. This is not actually what happened when I had done this years before. So this has been about 20 years since I've done this. Uh, it linked the spreadsheet instead of embedded. So let's look at our options when we copy. So I just did Control C, Control V. There are options when you paste a graph, and let's look at what our options are. So I'm going to right click, and let's look what our paste options are when we click. Right click. So I'm going to right click. Okay, so there's use destination theme and embed workbook. That is the default. Then there is keep source formatting and embed workbook. So then, oh, okay, that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be the SOA theme. Now I've got it a second time. I've embedded the workbook twice. Oh, crap. Or I can link the data. Oh, geez. How many times is it in here now? I don't want to edit header. I can keep source formatting and link the data. Or, and this is what most people are really wanting to do, is just paste it as a picture. Okay, now the problem with paste it as a picture, of course, you can't do all the nifty formatting that you might want to do. That's okay. I often have to, when I'm doing my work for my day job, I actually often have to rebuild the graph either in Word or PowerPoint because I do work in publishing research. And my graphs get rebuilt not only in PowerPoint and Word, but also in InDesign and some other, software situations. So I'm often having to have my graphs rebuilt in multiple ways, and sometimes I have other graphics designers rebuilding my graphs in other environments. So, that's life. And now how many times do I have my workbook embedded here? I didn't realize what I had been doing. This is actually not a very large workbook that I'm embedding here, but I had been embedding a very large workbook. Lessons learned. Number one, you really shouldn't be doing Monte Carlo modeling in Excel to begin with, by the way. I don't want to explain why I was doing that. There were a lot of mistakes made on that project. Not the Monte Carlo modeling itself. It shouldn't have been done in Excel. There were reasons why it was done in Excel. I don't need to go down that path. No, I did not use RAND for doing the Monte Carlo modeling. I know better than that. I used Mersenne Twister, and it was a VBA implementation of Mersenne Twister. I did test it. It was fine. But the main lesson, though, when you make a mistake like that, especially an operational error that affected some very high-level people, you've got to own up to it ASAP, and you've got to try to fix the thing that caused the problem. I mean, and that's what I did. I contacted IT immediately. I know people have panic attacks, and yes, I was not happy at the time. Okay, guys, yes, a lot of people were upset, but you've got to handle it immediately, deal with it. I did not know. I absolutely did not know how I caused the problem. I had to figure that out. I actually didn't figure it out for several months. And once I figured it out, I did tell everybody what I had done and how to prevent that error. And that's one of the things, if you can learn from other people's errors, and that's why I'm telling you this right now. I've told everybody about this so they don't make this mistake. Make new mistakes, okay? You're going to make new mistakes. And you need to be aware people are going to make mistakes. It's okay, okay? But hiding mistakes is bad. And different mistakes, of course, have different magnitude, okay? Um, but if you get into the habit of hiding mistakes, that is really bad. Um, and pretending that they didn't happen. That's just a bad habit to get into. Um, I know what caused it. I mean, they needed that report, so I fixed it the best I could. And I did escalate and let people know. You do need to communicate. One of the issues that I've had with people, and I understand worrying, but the problem is you can't hide a mistake like this. So, yes, your instinct may be to hide and try to cover up. However, you're only going to make it worse. Okay, yeah, there may be some negative repercussions out of it, but the other thing is, I'm going to promise you it will be worse if you try to hide it. So don't try to hide it. Okay? Get it over with. But ultimately there were no negative repercussions and it was a good laugh later. Okay? No big deal. Um, there were just some bounced emails, and given the timing of it, there was no great damage done. Nobody missed anything very important, given the timing that I had sent the email. They didn't miss anything very important. So that was okay. Uh, and because I did respond rapidly to the error. That said, it's just like be aware, learn from your mistakes, let other people know when a mistake has been made. If you don't know how to solve it, ask help from other people because I did have to ask. I couldn't fix it myself. I needed IT to fix it for me. They fixed it for me. And again, I did shove it in the back of my mind. Something had gone wrong and I didn't know why it had gone wrong. Rather than just go, oh, well, I did stick it in the back of my mind and kind of, paid attention to try to see if I could figure out why it had gone wrong. I don't even remember how I figured it out. It took a long time before I did see something like that happen again. And then I dug into it a little bit and then I realized it was embedding the entire workbook inside. I did not spend the time at that moment in time figuring out what had happened. I just needed to fix it at that moment in time. So, these are just some practical tips. This is not this specific problem is going to happen to you, but, mess ups, screw ups are going to happen. So you need to figure out a high level strategy, how you're going to react in that situation. Um, so, there's the short term, how you're going to deal with it, and then there's the long term, are you going to fix it? And there are screw ups I've had that I've never figured out what happened. When I've shoved it in the back of my mind and maybe years later, aha, I finally figured out what had been going on. And sometimes I never will. And that's a possibility as well. So the other thing is you can't brood on things all the time, but sometimes you can just, push it back in the back of your mind, and it's something that ticks over, at least with technology, though. Unfortunately, things change and it doesn't always continue, but it looks like the Microsoft Office is still doing this stuff. The only difference is we have a lot more memory space and email in our file systems, so it doesn't fill up as rapidly. That said, IT where I work does sometimes complain that we're using up too much space. We don't operate this way. I mean, I don't operate this way. I'm about to just delete all of this. I'm not saving this document. Um, and this is not my work computer. This is my personal laptop. Um, but and this is a personal project that I do for my blog. Um, but be aware. See y'all.